Good evening. We will start shortly. We're just waiting for the participant numbers just to climb slightly. So just bear with us. Thank you. Okay, good evening. It's really lovely to have you all here. I wish I could see all of your faces. We usually have these in person, but welcome to All Things Teaching, Learning and Assessment. My name's Jenny Thompson. I'm Assistant Principal at Worthing College, and I am joined by my colleague, Chris Mummery, Head of Learning at Haywards Heath College. Next slide, please. We are absolutely delighted to be an outstanding Ofsted provider, and we are really delighted that we have had an outstanding grade in all of the aspects from the Ofsted framework. I think we are most proud of the little statement that we have at the bottom there, that learners and apprentices benefit greatly from the expertise of their teachers. And what we're about to say, both Chris and I during this presentation, is hopefully you will see and hear how excited we are to have young people arriving at our institutions and being able to deliver outstanding teaching, learning and assessment as we go through the weeks and months. Next slide, please. Most of our questions ask us, what does a typical student do during the week? What does a timetable look like? What are the lessons? What are the progress? What's best, how best to study? So we're going to give you a flavour of that now as we go through the next 20 minutes or so. So a typical timetable for a student at Haywards Heath and at Worthing College will consist of mainly 3 courses. Sometimes it's all A-levels, sometimes it'll be a mixed A-levels and applied A-levels, and sometimes it'll be a 3 A-level equivalent course like health and social care or sport. But what is common throughout all of these threads is that it is really important that students have a really strict self-discipline and student study programme. So for every A-level or 4-hour course that they take, we would expect them to take 6 hours of independent study outside of that course. That will be given through something called an ISP, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in detail, but it's a homework package. And it is a weekly routine that we really want students to be self-disciplined from the get-go and stick to it, because in that way, students really will benefit from being able to achieve their best selves. Next slide, please. In doing so, you might be familiar with this principle called Vespa. Some students already using it at college, but in order for students to be their best self, we want them to get them into the right mindsets. And we work really hard to ensure we get students really early on to know what they want to do. They might not know where they want to go, but certainly we want to be able to give them a vision. We want to give them the study skills to be able to make the best effort to achieve their grades. And we're going to provide them with the best systems and support so they can have all of the structures in place to develop really effective practice. And beyond all else, having the best attitude often is the best weapon to get the best grades. And that's what we're going to be trying to develop over certainly the first few months and over the 2 years that the student is at Worthing College and at Haywards Heath. It's our behaviours, not necessarily the intelligence of a student, that determines the best results. And we're going to really bang on about that over the next, certainly the next 20 minutes, but over the next few weeks and months. It's your behaviours, not your intelligence, that will determine your results. Next slide, please. So our homework package is called an independent study pack. And as I said to you, for each of your A-level equivalent courses, you will receive an ISP. And the ISP is a 6-hour study pack broken down into 5 component parts. Once a student has got their timetable of 3 equivalent A-levels, and that could be applied generals or a combination of, it kind of accounts for about 30 hours per week. And the 30 hours per week will consist of 4 hours times 3 A-levels, and then the 6 times 3 for their independent study. So we expect students to work a really good working week at college. The ISP is essentially a product of recapping notes, so making sure you're really secure with your knowledge. We'll do lots of little tests and exams and recap skills to make sure that you really can recall the information. We'll also give you a bit of flip learning. It's preparation for next lesson. And we'll do something called interleaving, which essentially is a posh word for recapping previous topics or previous topics from previous years in your ISP. Just so I don't forget, if you do have any questions, please could you make sure you pop them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and then Chris and I will get to those at the end of this session. So if there's anything that you're unsure about that I'm asking, if you're unclear, please just pop them in the Q&A and we'll get to them. So this is your ISP, 6 hours per subject, which will account for your homework per week. Next slide, please. So how does a student, a parent, carer or guardian know how well a young person is doing at our college? Well, if you look at the green boxes at the top, this accounts for a typical A-level student. You will have 4 big progress checks in your year, akin to your mock exams that you take at school at the minute. One will happen in October, December, March and May, June time. And interspersed with those, you will have a further 8 mini assessments, which will account, if you add both of those up, you will have 11 assessments per year that we will be able to assess your progress. We have something called SeeSpace, of which Chris will tell you a bit about in a minute, but it's a portal where you can have a look at your progress. If you are taking applied general courses, you will take a mixture of exams, and you'll see probably you'll take an exam in December. It will then be coupled with exam units and coursework. You'll take probably another exam in May, June, and maybe in March, and then it will be culminated and finished with coursework. The applied general exams are about 40% of the totality of the grades, and the A-levels on average are between 80 and 100% exams. So that's the slight difference. I'm going to pass over to my colleague now, who is going to tell you a bit more about how you can actually look at SeeSpace and get some information from it. So over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Jenny. So once enrolled, all students will have access to something called SeeSpace. Now, SeeSpace is a one-stop shop that will give students key information to support their progress through college. And this information includes attendance, punctuality, as well as the formal assessments that Jenny just mentioned. So students can refer to this information and keep an eye on their progress, particularly against their minimum expected grade. So each student will have a minimum expected grade based upon their performance at GCSE. Now, it's vitally important that students engage with this data in order to take ownership over their learning and track their progress. So they can see how they're progressing throughout the year. They can also set targets for themselves and see the targets have been set by their teachers. They can also message and communicate with their teachers directly through SeeSpace. And SeeSpace can be accessed by students both in college and from home as well. Now, from September, the college will also be introducing a parent and carers portal. So this is a new initiative at Haywards Heath and Worthing next year. So where students give permission, this data can be shared directly with parents and carers. So the parents and carers can also see how students are progressing. Next slide, please. All students will have access to virtual learning platforms at Haywards Heath and Worthing, such as Moodle and Microsoft Teams, to support their learning. Students will be able to access learning resources for all their subjects via a PC, Mac, laptop, tablet device, or smartphone. All students will have full access to Microsoft Office 365, which includes an email account, Microsoft Office, and Teams, as well as other useful teaching and learning applications. We've all learned a lot from the experience of remote learning, and although we look forward to all students being back in the classroom next year, there are many IT innovations that have emerged during the lockdowns that can support classroom learning. Next slide, please. In terms of additional support, we have a dedicated team of student tutors who provide holistic pastoral support for all our students at both colleges. All students will have a weekly 45-minute group tutorial with their tutor, as well as 4 one-to-ones throughout the year. These one-to-ones will focus upon transition from school to college, progress, achievement, and also what next in terms of their progression after college and looking at next steps. Student tutors will provide a balance of challenge and support to students. In many ways, they function as a kind of critical friend, supporting students throughout their 2 years, or 3 years in some cases. In the group tutorial sessions, students will follow a weekly ACES programme, which includes interactive workshops that are centred upon personal development. And in case you're wondering, ACES stands for Attitudes, Choices, Employability and Skills. And it's designed to support and realise the overarching vision of preparing all our students to be good citizens. We also have our dedicated Progression Plus team who provide students with careers and HE advice, both one-to-one and in groups, supporting students with things like UCAS applications to university, CV writing and applying for apprenticeships. Thank you, and I'll hand you back to Jenny. Next slide, please.
Unmute myself. I don't know how many times I still do that. I've done this forever. So we've kind of come to the end of the presentation. So please, we've got a couple of questions we're going to answer. So please pop them in there. But it's really important to know that we're not just an exams factory here. Whilst we obviously do want our young students, your sons and daughters, to get the best possible grades. And if you watched our previous presentation, our achievement is outstanding, 100% achievement, and we're an Ofsted outstanding institution, but we do want our young people to feel supported and feel prepared for their next steps. So you know, we are not kind of a one-stop shop. We really do want people to feel happy, and we definitely want people to come here in September to have an experience which is really going to be enriching. So I'm just going to start to answer some of the questions. I've got one from Omari up here, and then I'll pass back to Chris. What about the sports programs? Is there sporting activities factored into their learning timetable? Amara, I'm assuming that you're talking about an academy timetable. The academy timetable will be factored into the timetable that I showed you earlier on. You will get copies of these slides. So you will need to make sure that you work probably outside of your college timetable, because your 30 hours will go outside of that. So you will have to do evening and weekend studying for factoring in all of the Wednesdays where you'll be playing sport and some of your practices on a Monday, Tuesday and a Friday. So yes, you will be. Just one more question from me, Chris. Do you do EPQs? Yes, you do. And we give you an opportunity if you're in the Aspire programme, so students that are looking to go to Oxford, Cambridge and the Russell Group universities, you will start that in February. And for those students in year 12, you will start that in June. And an EPQ is an extended project qualification, which is a fantastic project-based qualification where you can choose your title and do lots of exciting, interesting research. So that will be added to your year 12 programme in June, and it will continue into your next year in year 13. So Chris, would you like to pick up on any other questions there?
Yeah, the question here from Kerry, what enrichment opportunities are there for A-level students? As Jenny just alluded to, we're very keen on enrichment. We're not just an exam factory. We are about the wider college community. Obviously, this year we've been slightly restricted in terms of the enrichment opportunities we can offer, but as well as having our sports academies, performing arts academies, we also have things like guest speakers and student visits. So that's something we're very keen to develop further for next year, to make sure students have all those kind of opportunities, as well as also just following their regular subjects. We also have a very active student union at both sites with student executives, and at various points during the year, there'll be fundraising activities organised by the student union, and all students are encouraged to actively get involved in the student union. We have student reps for each course as well. So that's a really, really important aspect of what we do at the college. So yes, enrichment is really, really central to what we do. Just got another question here from Julie. The parents carers portal is really helpful. If a parent needed to contact a tutor, could they do so from this too? So yeah, the parent and carers portal is currently in development for next year, and it's designed to make sure that parents and carers have the information they need to make sure they can keep track of their son and daughter's progress. If you did need to contact a tutor, that's something you'll be able to do anyway, assuming that you were permitted contact from that student. But yeah, we're very keen to make sure that parents are informed about progress, both through course progress, but also pastorally as well. Jenny, just hand you over for another couple of questions.
Yeah, I'll just nip down the list as we go. We've just got a question here. At sixth form, do we have parents' evening? Yes. For year 12, the students are in year 1. You will have a parents' evening brand new parents in October. You'll come and meet the principal, you'll come and see our faces that you see on the screen. You'll be able to have a wander around the colleges and meet your tutor. For the year 12 students, you will have a parents' evening where you'll meet the actual teachers in November, and then if you go into year 13, you'll have one in February, and that kind of keeps on going. But if you do need to see tutors, or you do need to see teachers, then you will be able to contact them and have telephone conversations, or come in to meet them should you wish. Judith, what is the tutor's role during the year? Well, they're integral to a student's progression. They kind of make up the holistic support that we offer students. They will meet with a tutor group once a week for an hour, and they will meet with their tutees on an individual basis throughout the year. And they will deliver, what Chris mentioned earlier, something called the ACES programme, which is essentially a programme which prepares the students who come to Worthing College for their futures. So it gets them in the right attitude, it kind of gives them the information they need, it talks about apprentices, and it talks about universities and also jobs. So they have an integral part in the students' welfare and progress at the college. Chris, do you want to answer the next couple?
Yeah, just a few more questions coming through. One here from Sean. I'll be taking 3 subjects. How is my study hours split between home studying and college studying? It's a really good question. So when Jenny went through the timetable, she sort of illustrated a typical week. So you would have 4 hours per subject. So that's 12 hours contact time in total. Then the expectation is you would do 6 hours of independent study in addition to that. So there's a very high expectation once you get to sixth form about the amount of work you do independently, and that will equate to a 30-hour week in terms of your studies. So I hope that answers your question. Another question here, when will students find out their start date and timetable? So we have induction in early September, I believe it's the 6th of September for the induction week, and you'll start your studies formally from the 13th of September, and during that induction week you will get your full timetable following on from enrolment. And then just see coming through a couple more. Jenny, do you want to answer those?
Yeah, I don't know whether this is possible, but Megan, would you mind just flipping back to that timetable slide for me, because we're getting a few questions on the timetable. Is that okay? Yeah, sorry, just bear with us, folks on the line, and I'll just explain that a bit more detail. I think it's the next one, that one there. So what I've got here is a typical timetable for a student. I've put Saturday and Sunday and evenings on there. But what we would really like for students to do is maximise their college day, so from 8:30 till 4:05. And if you maximise that time with your lessons, which are in the, you can see there, this typical student has got maths, applied law and French. You could have sports, you could have biology, and you could have psychology. But you can see where I've put 2 hours in there. The same colours correspond to the ISPs, the homework. And so if you manage to really structure your day, then you could have every evening and every weekend free. And that's what we'd really like, for you to look upon college as a job and contain your working hours, your college hours, in your timetable. But you might absolutely be hopeless at waking up on a Tuesday morning when you haven't got anything. So in fact, you might do some work from 5 till 7 on the Tuesday evening to compensate for your French homework. Equally, you might play football, or you might have dance, or you might have equestrian on a weekend. So you will cut out some of your hours on a Saturday, but actually I like to work on a Sunday afternoon, so I'm going to do my maths homework on a Sunday afternoon. But a typical working week on there is 30 hours, 12 hours worth of your subjects in lessons in front of your teachers, and then you will have 6 hours per subject for your homework, which is your ISP, which I mentioned a while ago. If you've got academy, it will be in the Wednesday block. You can see G and A. And if you look at the G and the A blocks in the other part of the timetable, that's when your sports academy blocks will be in there. Your EPQ will be added to that if you take that, but that will be a typical student's timetable. So hopefully I've kind of explained that for you, George, there. How do you find out about the EPQ? Please just look online. We've got some fantastic course guidance kind of leaflets on there. The same at Haywards Heath and the same at Worthing. So just go onto our website and have a look. It's really, really interesting, particularly if you love writing essays. You can write an essay, you can have an artifact, you can have a play, so it's something for everybody. And is the Aspire programme dependent upon GCSE results? Not totally, but we would expect students that are working hard to go to universities to be an integral part of the Aspire programme. And again, you'll find more details on our website, and that's a really exciting programme that will support you, particularly if you want to go to Russell Groups, Oxford, Cambridge, doctor, dentist, veterinary surgeon, but not exclusively. Chris, next couple of questions for you.
A question about when the college is open and closes each day. I mean, generally speaking, the college will be open from when we open in the morning, so around 7:30 in the morning, up until around 5 o'clock in the evening. Our LRC at Haywards Heath is open from 8 o'clock in the morning for students to 4:30 in the afternoon. I'm sure it's probably similar at Worthing. So hopefully that answers that question for you. So we want to make sure that students have access to our facilities outside of their lessons as well. So do make use of the LRC, and at Worthing College we've got the learning zones as well. Got a question here from Kelly asking about the process pre-induction week and results day. So yes, there is a hotline on results day. So if you've got any questions or queries about GCSE results and the implications of that for courses, that is something that will be available to all our applicants on GCSE results day. And a question about what is enrolment. Enrolment is basically a process where you formally become a student of the college, and you're issued with your ID card, and you get your timetable, and obviously you follow on with your induction and starting your courses from that point in September. Another question from Jack about EPQ. The EPQ stands for Extended Project Qualification. So this is something that students can do in their second year of study, which is basically a kind of research project, which can be based on one of the subjects you're already doing, or perhaps another area of interest that is supported by a teacher and is supervised, and you actually get UCAS points for that qualification as well. And then a couple more questions for you to answer, Jenny. Just have more come through.
Thank you. Donna, when will we be receiving reading lists and books to obtain? If you're currently a year 11 student, we are kind of drip feeding a whole host of information for you. So on the website currently, we are just uploading the reading lists. You will also find at the end of June something called the Getting Ready for Next Year pack, which is a little project that we'll be asking you to do for each of your A-levels or your courses that you're taking. So please have a look on the CCG website, and it will take you to the reading lists. And in time, you will be receiving emails to say that there is another piece of information or another project for you to complete. So please don't despair. We will definitely keep you busy over the long summer. How long is induction week? 1 day or every day? We will be inviting you in for 1 day, and that will be in the week, I think, of the 6th. Chris, am I right there?
Sorry, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so you'll be invited in, and then you will have an introduction to your courses. You'll go through some IT, because you'll need to get your log on, so you can then go onto our internet and also onto our Office 365 suite. And then you will start for good in your lessons with your lesson plan, with your timetable the week after. So it's a day for your induction, and then you will kick off the next week as a Worthing College student full-time. So I'm just going to pause. Oh, there's another one coming there. So Chris, do you want to answer the next one?
So I've got a question here saying, how do you ensure subjects do not clash in the timetable for someone taking 4 A-levels? It's a good question. Yeah, basically we put a lot of work in during the enrolment process to make sure we can accommodate any combination of courses based on initial requests. So we do guarantee that any applications made before December, we will avoid any clashes in those subjects. And then anyone who wants to change courses during enrolment, we can look at that option and see if we can accommodate it. And in most cases, we can accommodate it, even if you were taking 4 A-levels rather than 3. Any more questions?
Yeah, there's just a couple here, Chris. So David's asked, what does it look like for a student that takes 4 A-levels? Well, if you look on the screen here, that's a student with 3. So if you are taking 4, there'll be another subject added to that. And then you'll be expected to do some work outside of the college day, because you will add another 4 hours of classwork and another 4 hours of ISP. So that will just have to be planned into your routine. And again, making really good structures and being really disciplined For students that have got GCSEs of round about grade 7, we would expect students to consider taking 4 A-levels or 3 A-levels and further maths, or 3 A-levels and EPQ. So it'll just look busier than the one that you see on screen. How do we meet form tutors? How do form tutors work? Do we even have them, says Jeremy? 3 questions. You'll meet your form tutor in your first week. You'll meet some of the team when you come into introductory day, which will be emailed to you shortly. That's on the 29th of June. The emails and invitations are going out next week for that. How do they work? Well, it's 1 hour per week, about 20 students in each. And you'll meet your tutor 1 hour a week, where I said earlier you'll be doing ACEs and you'll be having one-to-ones throughout that time. Just a question from Julie. If a student started an A-level and wanted to change, is that possible? You can change within the first 3 weeks, but not thereafter. So we do give you a bit of a warming up or cooling off period. And by the end of September, we will expect you to have requested a change, and by the very start of October you would be on that programme for the rest of that year. So we're just coming up towards 6:10. I think, Chris, we've got time for one more question and then we will come back to me and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, last question is, what is the maximum class size for A-levels? And yeah, we try and make class sizes manageable. Certainly, you know, up to around sort of 23 students, but the average class size would be around 18 for level 3 subjects and 16 for level 2 subjects. Got some other questions coming through as well, actually. Can you use electronic devices such as laptops, iPads to aid learning? Definitely yes. You know, we encourage you to bring in your electronic devices to support your learning, both in lessons and obviously using the LRC and learning zones as well. Question here, do we continue studies during half terms? There'll be no timetable lessons during half terms. Obviously there will be an expectation you'll be doing independent study work, completing assessments, homework during the half term period as well. And I think that is it now for questions, unless there's any final ones coming through.
I think we're almost at full time now, Chris, but I do want to say, if you pop your questions into the chat, if we don't get to any of those questions, we will try and answer them through a frequently asked questions document. But I really do want to thank you for attending. We're really excited to see you at introductory day at the end of June. Don't forget, it will be coming out soon, so don't worry. And we can't wait to see all of you in September, when our classrooms are going to be busy and hopefully have a really fantastic experience at an outstanding college. So thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.